All right, so today we're going to pull off a little heist. But forget money, forget art, we're going after something way more valuable. We're stealing the productivity secrets from some of the most brilliant minds in history.
Let's be real. Your to-do list? It's a monster, isn't it? It feels less like a helpful guide and more like one of those mythical beasts where you chop off one head and two more just sprout up in its place. It is just relentless. It's overwhelming, and it always leaves you feeling like you're playing catch-up.
But here's the thing. You are not the first person to face this monster. Not by a long shot. I'm talking about some of the most accomplished people in history. Authors, inventors, artists, you name it. They wrestled with the exact same demons of distraction and overwhelm that we do. So the big question is, how did they win?
So that's our mission today. We're becoming productivity thieves. We're going to pull back the curtain on the systems and the mindsets that let these geniuses create such incredible, monumental work.
And you know what's crazy? The most powerful solutions? They're not hiding in some new app or a super complicated digital system. Nope, they are timeless principles. Simple, powerful ideas that we can borrow, or, shamelessly steal, and actually start applying to our own lives. Like today.
All right, so our first target is not a tool, it's not a technique. It's all internal. See, before you can even think about managing your time, you've got to manage your mind. Let's dig into how the greats really mastered their own.
Okay, the first secret we're grabbing is something called ruthless prioritization. And this is not just about making a to-do list. Not at all. It's about having the guts to identify that one thing that matters most, and then having the discipline to just brutally ignore, delegate, or even delete everything else.
And just check this out. Look at how two totally different minds landed on the exact same idea. You've got Bruce Lee, the martial artist, whose whole philosophy was to hack away at the inessential. Then you have Warren Buffett, the investor. He tells you to list 25 goals, circle your top 5, and then actively avoid the other 20. See, they're both saying the same thing. Your biggest enemy isn't your main goal. It's all that kind of important stuff that just pulls you away from what really counts.
I mean, think about Steve Jobs. When he went back to Apple, what did he do? He famously just slashed the product line to save the entire company. And his advice to the CEO of Nike? It was just as direct. He basically said, it's not about adding more stuff, it's about getting rid of the junk that doesn't serve the core mission. Okay, so ruthless prioritization is great for the big stuff. But what about that swarm of tiny little tasks that buzz around your head all day? Well, here's another one to steal, this time from productivity guru David Allen, the 2-minute rule. The logic is so simple but so powerful. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, just do it, right now. Because the mental energy you waste remembering it and putting it off is actually more than it takes to just get it done. Honestly, this one trick, it's like closing a dozen open tabs in your brain, and it frees up all that focus for what really truly matters. All right, so once you've got your priorities locked in, the next move is to rig the game in your favor. First, you master your mind. Then, you master your physical world. Why? Because your willpower, it's a battery that runs out. But a well-designed environment, that thing works for you 24/7, no batteries required.
And listen, this is a total game changer. Seriously, stop trying to force yourself to be more disciplined. That's a losing battle. Instead, build an environment where the right choice is the easy choice. And the wrong choice? Make it difficult or maybe even impossible.
Just take the case of Victor Hugo. Yeah, the genius who wrote Les Miserables. Turns out, he was also a legendary procrastinator. He had a publisher breathing down his neck, a huge deadline looming, and, well, a pretty serious weakness for the social scene in Paris.
So his solution was, let's just say it was unconventional. He gathered up all of his clothes, handed them over to his servants, and told them, do not give these back to me until I finish this book. He literally engineered his environment to make procrastination impossible.
So there he was, left with nothing but a big shawl to wear. He couldn't go outside. He had no choice but to sit down and write. See? He wasn't relying on willpower. He built a system of forced focus. Yeah, it was extreme, but you know what? It worked. He hit that deadline.
And this strategy, this idea of forced focus, it just pops up again and again. Maya Angelou, she rented these bare, empty hotel rooms just to separate her work from her life. Demosthenes, the Greek orator, literally shaved half his head so he'd be too embarrassed to go out. And then Agatha Christie did the complete opposite. She made it easier to work by never even owning a desk so she could write anywhere. And look at Oprah. She designs her time environment, filtering every single request with one question. Is this a full-bodied yes? If it's not, it's an automatic no. Okay, so you've focused your mind, you've engineered your environment, awesome. But that's just for one day, right? The greats, they built legendary careers. And that takes sustainability. It's all about playing the long game. And that Well, that comes down to managing your energy, not just your time.
I want you to just forget that whole hustle culture myth that makes burnout seem like a badge of honor. It's not. True, sustainable productivity is all about pacing. It's about conserving and strategically using your energy. Just like a marathon runner, you have to make sure you've got enough in the tank to actually finish the race. And a huge part of managing energy is, of course, rest. But what's so fascinating is that there is no one-size-fits-all answer. You've got Ben Franklin, who is all about early to bed, early to rise. Then you have author Anne Rice, who did the complete opposite, slept all day, worked all night to avoid distractions. And Jerzy Kosinski? He split his sleep into 2 4-hour chunks to get 2 focused periods. So what's the real secret here? It's to listen to your own body and find what actually sustains you.
And just listen to this quote from John D. Rockefeller, one of the wealthiest people in modern history. It completely flies in the face of today's work culture. He knew that a steady, even pace will accomplish way more in the long run than all those frantic bursts of hustle that just lead to inevitable burnout.
And you see this commitment to energy management everywhere when you start looking. So many brilliant minds, guys like Beethoven, they only worked for a few super focused hours a day. Daily walks, they were absolutely non-negotiable for thinkers like Darwin and Kant. Naps weren't a sign of weakness, they were a strategic tool for people like Churchill. And maybe the biggest one of all, Walt Disney proved that when you're genuinely passionate about what you do, that's the ultimate renewable energy source.
Okay, we've officially cased the joint. We've seen the secrets. Now it's time to plan your score. The real question is, how are you going to take these ideas and actually make them your own?
And this right here, this is probably the most important takeaway from this entire heist. None of this stuff is a magic spell. They're systems. They are guardrails that you build around your life so that your default actions, the easy things to do, are the productive ones. You're not trying to become more disciplined. You're building a system where you just need less discipline to win in the first place.
And that brings us to the final and most important question. Look, don't try to do all of this at once. That's just a recipe for failure. Instead, I want you to think like a thief. Be selective. Be strategic. Out of everything we've talked about today, what's the one habit, the one mindset, the one secret that you are going to steal and make your own, starting tomorrow?